entertainment, current events, and Hollywood. Don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha Bean, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creator to Creators today. Today we have a very special guest.
Hi, I'm Joe Staton.
And I'm Joe's mum, Lauren Staton.
And I am Chloe Champken.
I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, I love to, I love going back to the beginning. I always say at the beginning charts our trajectory in life, our little habits we pick up along the way, follow us to our adulthood. Tell me just a little snippet, a little bit each, and whoever can go first wants to tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like, and how'd you get into the industry, or doing the things that you're doing now? So whoever wants to take that away, go for it.
Mum, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first if you like. Although I don't come from a theatrical background, I've worked with theatre people for many, many years, and became a makeup artist in my mid-20s. And together with my husband, we founded Snazaroo, which is a company that makes face paints, and is still going strong today, although I'm not part of it anymore, but spent many, many years working in that industry and working with costume and working with makeup, which was a wonderful creative career that I look back on with fond memories. We never stopped being creative. And then I had Joe. We never ever dreamed that he would become an actor, but there you go. So off you go, Joe.
I love it.
I just have to say, like, one of the frustrating things about doing these interviews with my mum alongside me is I have to deal with my mum's humility. She started off by saying she doesn't come from a theatrical background. She literally founded her own dance school at the age of 18. So shut up, mum. Come on.
Can I correct you there? It was 14. I was
14.
14. Yeah, well, I was on the stage prancing around. I was a bit of a show off, I think. So, yeah, it was, I don't know where that came from. There was nobody else in our family that was that creative. But my mother jumped for joy when I started dancing because she was a seamstress, so she could make our costumes. And I think that's how we got into working alongside, first of all, alongside her, and then into our own industry with making costumes. So that was good fun. So yeah, I mean, I'm always backstage now. That was the thing. It was always, in my early days, it was great to be out there prancing around in the 70s, which was an amazing time. And there were some incredible musicians, and our musicians were very theatrical at that time because they were out there doing some amazing shows, and everything was very visual. So yeah, I've got a very colorful brain, and I think that comes from the 70s. It must do. Yeah, I see everything in color.
I love that.
Everything. Yeah.
As for me, how did I get into this industry and everything? Well, I think that anyone who has met my mum would agree that I never stood a chance. I was always gonna go into this industry because I grew up with face painters, for God's sake. So, from a very early age, I was surrounded by color and costumes and just ridiculousness and everything. And then at the age of 10, I read my first Shakespeare play, decided that's what I want to do, and my mum, being the liberal nutcase that she is, decided to support me. And so here we are. Now I work mostly as an actor, occasionally as a producer, and written my first play, which we'll talk about.
I don't think it was me. I don't think it was me that got you into that. I think it was your grandmother, because she used to teach you monologues. Don't you remember when you were little and you used to stand
Oh yeah.
when he was very small, when he was about 4, he used to stand in front of the family and recite these monologues
Oh,
that she taught him. And some of them were from, way back in the 30s and 40s.
yeah.
So then he got into Peter Pan, and it was all about Peter Pan, and he wanted to be Peter Pan. And so we would hear, we would have to watch the movie many, many times. So yeah, Joe was a sword fighter at a very young age. This is where he wants to embarrass me, but I can fire back really quickly.
Right. I
There'll
love
be a lot of this.
it.
There'll be a lot of this today.
And as for me, yeah, I think it's I didn't have theatrical parents, if you will. But I actually got into acting and performing actually as a disciplinary measure. I was too energetic for a lot of my teachers at the ripe age of 4 or 5, and it was actually a child carer that I had that said, "Oh, have you heard of something called Stagecoach? It's really good for kids to channel energy when they have a lot of creative outbursts and things like that." And that was it, really. And I kind of loved it. And then that led me through just doing amateur dramatics through school and after school and things like that, those kind of programs. And then getting a drama scholarship to a really great school in Berkhamsted, which is a town in like the south of England. And from there went to like drama school. Originally did musical theatre, which I still love, but I've moved away from that part of the industry a little bit, and then found myself coming to New York doing straight acting at Stella Adler, which is where I met Joe. Was only supposed to be here for 10 weeks and then ended up staying for 3 more years after that, all legally, may I say. Changed my became a student for the 2-year conservatory, and I'm now just finishing up my visa application for my O1. So that should be coming through in the next few days, actually, which is exciting. And then, yeah, we love an immigrant story. But yeah, and that's kind of where I've met Joe, and now this is going to be our 9th project.
Wow.
I think together, 8th or 9th. As much as we fight to stay away from each other, we end up always getting pulled back to work together creatively. But I think it's been a roller coaster, a crazy roller coaster for the last 3 years, but it's been amazing.
I love
I gave her first directing job.
Correct.
She owes her career to me.
I do. I blame Joe.
I love that. I love that. So, I love what you're doing with this project, collectively, together. Tell me a little bit about like kind of like let's start from the beginning. Like what drew you to this story now and not, years ago?
Well, so basically, Mum wrote a book. So Mum did this amazing thing in the 1980s, 90s, and everything, where she started this big face painting brand, her and my dad, which sold all over the world. And I always grew up knowing about it and everything. But then she wrote a book, and I read this book, and the book was all about how she did this, how she created this amazing thing with my dad. Um, and it was kind of special for me to read because my dad passed away when I was 2, so I didn't know him. And so I got to sort of read a first-hand account of not only what he was like, but what they were like when they were doing this all together. And I read this book, I think it was 2018. I was in my last year of drama school. I read it, and I could sort of see it going on stage. I could see it in my mind, and on screen as well. Um, so I said to my mum at the time, I said, we need to turn this into something. This could do really well, I think, because the product is popular. Lots of people still know it. I still have people today say, "Oh my God, your mum created that. I know that." And so I was like, well, there's definitely, there should be an audience for it, so we should do something with it. And then 10 years later, after 10 years of procrastinating, I I kept trying to get other people to write it for me because I did not think of myself as a writer. I did not think I was good enough to be a writer. I didn't think I had that in me. And every time I tried to get someone else to write it for me, it just it didn't work. They didn't understand what it was about. They didn't understand, the the meaning behind it and what it should be and everything. So finally, in August or September of last year, I finally said, okay, I think it's gotta be me and I gotta do this. Okay, fine. So I sat down and I wrote it. I wrote the first draft and then I wrote a second draft and then I wrote a third draft and now I'm working on the fourth. But I put it up in front of an audience for a reading and the response was just kind of insane. Like lots of people seem to be really into it and lots of people seem to really connect with the story. And also there's a lot of people who are around, because it's a true story, who are around in those days who remember it all. So, it does, I think, mean a lot to a lot of people. And this was sort of confirmed to me when I started doing press for it. And then the BBC reached out to me to want to talk about it. So clearly like there is something there. And now we're also talking to a screenwriter in England who's interested in adapting it for screen, and pitching it to studios and stuff. And it basically, I think I was too young to write it when I first read it. I was 23 years old. I didn't really know myself yet, and I didn't know what skills I had. Now I'm 31, so I'm in a different time in my life, and I think now is the time for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And mom, I must say, like, to trust your son with this is, I mean, obviously, there's
Yeah.
have that all that faith in him to do it.
I mean, I can remember saying to him, the best person to write this is you. And Joe saying, no, I'm not really a good writer. And I mean, in the past, I've done a lot of writing and it would always be Joe on the end of the phone saying, improve your grammar. You've said this wrong and you can't say it like that. It was like, I used to think, oh no. But I know he's a good writer, but I think to be able to write snazzy or adapt from Snazzy Tale, I think to feel the emotion that's in it, because it's a balance of tragedy and and success running along side by side.
Right.
And I can remember thinking back in the early days, thinking, how do we deal with that in life, really?
Yeah.
And to put that on the stage and to get that into or to get it into dialogue, into a script. I mean, I managed to get it into a book, and I hadn't realized I'd done that. In fact, when I wrote the book, I was on holiday in Thailand for a month. I went to Thailand on my own and just sat on a beach in a beach bar and wrote the whole of Snazzy Tale without any research. I didn't need to research anything. It just all came out. It was all there. So there was a lot of I don't know, the whole thing came together very quickly. And then for somebody like Joe to take it and to, it's one thing writing a book yourself and saying, here's my story, everybody, without thinking, are they going to think I've got some kind of ego or something? This was really written for me to offload stuff. To be honest, I was sick of people saying, how did you start face painting? How did you start that company again? And I thought, all right, I'm just going to give you the whole lot in a book. For Joseph to take it, he sort of, because he knows me and he can hear my voice in it, he was going to portray the story really well. And he was the right person to do it. And not only that, he learned, it was one fascinating way of him to learn about his dad.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'll get little messages at night going, what would dad have done if somebody said this to him? How would he have responded? So this is a really good way of knowing somebody that, unfortunately you lost at an early age.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Like, how do you decide, what truth to keep and what to let go of when you're adapting, real life?
This is so funny because look at my mum's face right now.
Really love it, yeah.
This is so funny because mum, when she wrote the book, wrote a very clean version. She wrote the nice, basically. She didn't say anything that anyone did wrong. She didn't say anything that like, was dirty or mean or anything like that. And the play is very much the opposite of that. I dug in and I was like, okay, so with plays you need conflict, with stories you need conflict. So I got chatting to mum about, what was the what did you not say in this in this book that we can now say here?
Yeah.
And it's funny because, some family members, I won't say who, are not too happy. Um, but, it's, I we're not trying to make anyone look bad at
Yeah.
all. And there are some characters that could be featured in the story that we've not put in there for reasons. Because there's just, what they say, if you've got nothing nice to say, then don't say it at all. Um,
Yeah.
and the characters who are in the play that maybe, do come across sometimes a little, that you can always understand where they're coming from. You can always understand at least, their position and why they are like saying things or doing things the way they are. They're not inherently, bad or anything like that. Those people have not made into the script.
Yeah, definitely. I totally understand that. Um,
Yeah.
um, I question for the, director. When you first encountered this story, what made you say this has to be on stage? Or not even just that, but what responsibility do you feel directing something that is rooted in real lives and real lines?
I think it's linked to what Joe just said, really. It's the truth. It's like any play that you do, you're always trying to find the truth. And most of the time it's fiction. So whatever you have on the page, everything else you can kind of fill in the blank. You can imagine, you can have your own spin on it. When you're dealing with real people from a real time, it's you've got more to answer to. And people can fact check you very easily and very quickly.
Hmm.
But I think the real truth behind the story that is actually a lot more universal. Yes, it happens in a small town in England, but it's these big successful corporate or commercial businesses, sorry, that start from such a vulnerable and unique place that we often forget that most businesses started that way. And then they always say never work with children, animals, or family,
Hmm.
right? In your career. But I think there's this teetering seesaw when you do build something with family, and not just like this play, but
Hmm.
what Lauren did with her partner. You think, oh yeah, of course you love it, but sometimes you then bring work home, and there's no barrier between work life and home life, where often you can just shut the door and leave it behind. But and it's that complex relationship which I love. I love family dynamics. I love, tough love. And sometimes the people that you have the most trust in, the most faith in, the most love for, you can get so hurt the most by those people. But it's the underlying of, like Joe said, like you always know where a character's coming from.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, but what if I'm identify more with this character, but if you look at it from that way, you can really take that step back and look at that whole, how different people's perspectives and what they had to gain from a certain argument or a certain success story. It's like how that kind of navigates the time, and then when time is cut short, what you're then left remembering and what you're left going forward with. It's just beautiful. It's that part of the family with the addition of a successful company
Hmm.
is beautiful. For me, that's everything.
Yeah, I love that. In telling the story,
Mm.
did you discover anything about yourself that you weren't expecting?
Me or
Yes.
Chloe?
You, Joe. Yeah.
Me. Okay. I think Chloe just took a very deep breath just then.
Yeah,
I
but
was like,
she's like,
my own relationship with my mother. That's what I'm saying.
Stuff that I wasn't expecting. I mean, I've always been a procrastinator. I've always been someone who I don't feel is very organized. I've That's just who I am. I accepted that a long, long time ago. So what I wasn't expecting was to finish this project so quickly.
mm,
I wasn't. So as soon as I started writing and couldn't stop, and then finished, and then did another draft, and now working on another draft. I mean, if you'd have told me that like 2 years ago, that in 5 months or so I would have been on my fourth draft of a play, I would have said, "You're crazy. That's not who I am at all. I can't do that." So I definitely learned. I think I'm just wired in a way that if a project is important to me, I'll give it its due time and attention, and if it's not, I just won't. And this is clearly something that's very, very important to me. So, I think that was something I learned.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I already knew this, but I learned that my mum's a nutcase. I mean, I already knew she was a nutcase, but this just like confirmed it all. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah. Yeah. A risk taker. We jumped in to a business that none of us were trained to do
Love
or
it.
had any knowledge of. I mean, I wasn't a makeup artist or at that time. I knew nothing about cosmetics or, and we sat in our kitchen and went, we need to learn how to make this stuff because there's a need, and none of the other corporations that are making it, or none of the other suppliers are making it to the way we need it for our market, for our kids. And so we just sat there and went, okay, well, let's do it, against everybody saying, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. And we just did.
Yeah.
And it was, it took us, I think, probably about 2 years just to get the labor right, to get the actual manufacturing right of how we pack this stuff, how we make it.
Yeah.
Each color is different, it has different properties. And so there was a lot of experimenting. And I think after about 2 years that we cracked it, and we thought, this is how we're going to do it. And they still use that procedure today. Nothing's
Wow.
changed.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's really good.
I love this.
Very
This is a question for everyone, or both.
good.
Was there ever a moment when you both like saw the same scenes completely differently, and how did you like work through those moments without losing the heart of the story?
Well, I will say very quickly, when it comes to me and Chloe, Chloe and I work very, very well together. I will say that we've got a very good mutual respect for each other. But I will say this, because we've yet to start rehearsals and everything. But one thing that I want to say very quickly, in terms of what you just asked, is I've worked as a producer with other playwrights before, and the worst thing that you can ever have is a playwright who is interfering with rehearsals. That is
Mm.
the worst you can ever have. So when it comes to, yeah, Chloe and I are going to collaborate and everything, so I'm also producing and all of that. But it's very important to me that I don't want to be precious about this script. And Chloe has a great imagination, great mind. She's got a great sense of how to stage and everything. So yeah, I will always communicate with Chloe and everything, but I'm pretty much going to leave her alone to do what she wants to do with this script.
Mhm.
I have ideas and give them to her. It's up to her whether she wants to take them or not, and I will not be interfering with that, because I trust her 100%. Now, when it comes to my mum,
Well, no, what I was thinking is what happens, Joe, if Chloe says, Chloe, what would happen if you said, well, let's make this into a musical?
I will kill you. I
Ah,
will kill
already
you.
done. Lauren, you're one step ahead of me. I've got the
Really?
choreography ready. The
Oh,
choreography is
really?
already.
We have to do it, Chloe.
No,
We have to. Yeah,
it's
the music will be fantastic.
yeah, honestly. I think a big thing of that is when you do have, especially in a real life story,
Mhm.
it's kind of your responsibility to pay homage to the truth of the story. Like, I'm not going to turn like Joe comes to a rehearsal, then the next rehearsal I've set it on Mars. Like, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's like it's it, it's something and it is true. It's like that's why we probably do work together a lot, because we choose to. Because when you find people that just get it, and you can say the least amount of words and you're always on the same page, you're
Mhm.
not going to come in and have some like strange surprise. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, right, okay, there's a tap number in scene 4. Wasn't thinking about that as an option, but and I love collaboration. Like, I'm not the kind of director that's like, my word is be all and end all, and I come in before the rehearsals with every single thing exactly how I want, because we also have live people, human
Mhm.
beings
Mhm.
saying these words that And the beauty of it is that, you know, no one's playing themselves. Like we don't have, you know, the real people like biopicking themselves in a play. So they're going to bring their own personalities to this. And I think that's beautiful to hone. And I think it's, you want that. You want all that collaboration. I want Joe's ideas, blend them with my ideas. If they're better than mine, I'm going to steal them. Do you know what I mean? It's all of that collaboration, which is so key.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
It's interesting when you actually see it being performed, and you're like me, and I was sitting at the back thinking, you know, looking at the girl playing me, and afterwards in the bar when we were talking, and that was the first time I'd ever experienced somebody playing me in my life. You know, it was like, wow, this is weird. And people were asking me what and how I felt at certain scenes. And that was interesting because there were things that came through as a surprise, you know, surprising to me. But I think, you know, when I spoke to the girl playing me afterwards, and she said, you know, how did you feel about it? And I just went, you know what, you came across much nicer than I really am. And she said, oh, really? Really? I said, yeah, I think you're much too nice to be me, you know, but I was saying that as a compliment as well.
Yeah.
But that was my first impression. But I mean, it was great what she did. And some of the things that hit me, you know, a lot of people, you know, in the play, at the end of the play, that's when the tragedy hits with Paul dying, and, you know, and it's very, very sad. And everybody said to me, was that the bit that really hurt you, you know, that you got emotional with? I said, actually, no, because I've actually dealt with all that in my life. But what surprised me, I got more emotional at the beginning of the play, where it was all the, you know, as they were portraying us building a business, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears. That was emotional to me, thinking, oh my God, I remember that. Yeah, we said that. We felt like that. We did that. So that was coming across. So I was really impressed with that. And that's when I started to tear up a bit, sitting in the back row, you know, thinking, oh, I'm going to cry at this bit. Yeah, that was very real life. But, you know, the end, although it was a sad ending, I processed that ending so many times just to survive. It's a survival streak. So, yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. That you like, yeah, that you process that. And not to just, you know, stay on that, but you know, because I'm kind of going through something that is kind of like, you know, I'm in a process of things. Do you think there's moments, I mean, obviously, yes, you process it, but do you ever think there's moments where, do you feel like, okay, is it too soon to process something? Or do you think it's like, is there such a thing?
I think when you're going through that, you become aware of what other people may think of you processing too quickly or not fast enough. Or, you know, that saying when people say, well, you have to move on now. Like that never made any sense to me at all. And I tried to take people's advice and go, okay, well, I'm moving on. I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the whole thing about Snazzy Tale was about, you know, that it came out through moving on and then realizing that you've not moved on at all. Because how do you move on from something that was so amazing? You can't just put it in a cupboard and forget about it. Because, you know, there's a child walking along the beach with his face painted as a tiger, and you think, oh my God, you know, that was part of what we did. And so there's always a reminder there. But I mean, for when you say processing, you know, whether it's grief or processing grief, because, you know, I had to process the loss of a husband, and then the loss of what we had, not just him, but what we had together. And that was huge, that what we built together. So, you know, we sort of climbed a mountain, and it was almost people telling me, forget the mountain. Yeah, forget about that. You can't do that. It's impossible. So don't feel bad about, you know, just celebrate everything. Celebrate it all. Yeah.
Love that.
And that will get you through it. Yeah. If you're going through trauma, just celebrate it all. It's yeah, you know, people can get through it. They can. Well, I'm here. I'm still here. 30 years
Absolutely.
later, still surviving, you know.
Absolutely. I love that. It's amazing that you guys are both stepping into Julius Caesar. How does performing something's as a classic influence how you approach something so personal?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Um, yes, I think when it's a different amount. It's like it's weird. It's like a different amount of a different kind of pressure. Both are precious. You have something that someone's I mean, Julius Caesar obviously was a real person and a lived experience, but we don't know anyone alive today that can tell us how that felt. But with Snazzy, like we have, it's a precious, it's such a delicate, it's a beautiful thing that is, and Lauren says it's a celebration, it's a precious thing. Then with Shakespeare, I think is also, this big, the Shakespeare cloud of scariness sometimes. Yeah, I think what I love about acting and directing in Shakespeare is the attention to detail and the focus on the words. So it's like focusing on the story that Lauren wrote, that Joe has then created into a play format, and it's what we can find in the words first before you start putting your, a lot of it is actor and director ego, like coming in with like a theme and like before you actually dig into what the words are saying. And it's the same with Shakespeare. It's all there for you, and then you build upon it rather than forgetting all that and then doing your own thing. Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I try and take from something as big as Julius Caesar and Shakespeare and bring it into everything.
To be honest, I'm just sad that Chloe gets to stab Caesar and I don't. I'm off stage when that happens. So iconic scene, and I've got to be off stage for it. So,
That's
but
awesome.
it's okay. But no, I agree with everything Chloe said. Yeah.
I love it. Gosh, I could talk to you guys all day. I'm so sorry. It's like a short show, but please come back. Congratulations. Um, I wish you all the best, and with this project. And yeah,
Thank
congratulations again.
you.
That's so awesome.
Thank
Thank
Thank you
you.
you.
so much.
Thank
You.
you.
Thank
This
you
was
Absolutely.
so
great.
much.
Absolutely. Well, really quick, where can people find you on social media to follow everything you guys got coming up?
So we have an Instagram account for the play, which is Snazzy Play Faces. That's what it's called. Or you can follow me at Staton the Fact
Awesome.
on Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome.
And mine is Chloe.Champken, and there's Snazzy all over my Instagram.
Love it.
Sorry.
Love it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
And
you so much.
Yeah. Thanks
absolutely,
for having us on.
absolutely. Bye, guys. See you guys next time. And always
See you
remember
next time.
to live, love, laugh. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Totally.